Hello everyone, I'm Alex, I'm from Cornersmith. We have a cafe and a picklery and a cooking school in Sydney's Inner West. And today I wanted to talk to you about what to do with leftover bread, stale bread or excess bread. I don't know about you, but in my house there is always a hunk of bread left over at the end of every couple of days. And I'm always looking for something to do with those last little bits so they don't end up in the bin. I think in this weather, particularly during summer, the bread dries out more quickly and it's harder to get through it as fast. So we all know how to make things like French toast, which is a great way to use up stale sourdough, especially if you've just got a couple of slices left. That's something that I often make for my kids for breakfast in the morning. But what I wanted to show you is a few other ideas where you're turning your stale bread, small amounts of stale bread, into something really delicious. Now the first one I'm going to do are some crackers. I have a real issue with the cracker aisle at the supermarket, which are full of not only packaging on the outside, but those very dense plastic, sleeves that the crackers come in. When I look at those, I just wonder how long it is going to take for those to break down in landfill, because I don't think they're recyclable. So I'm really keen on ways to come up with making crackers at home that you can have with cheese plates, that you can smother in dips, and you know, I guess it's another way of using up what you've got to make instead of buying something. So the crackers are a great way to do it. What I've done is just very thinly sliced bread. So if you can get it as thin as you possibly can. I've got a very sharp knife, but if you don't have one at home, my suggestion is to grab a rolling pin, and once you've cut it, then roll it out as thin as you possibly can. The thinner you get it, the crunchier it's going to be. Then grab some kind of tray, just a baking tray will do, not too big, but you don't want them too crowded either. And just spread out the crackers. I'm just going to cut one more if I can. You can hear the crunch on that, so this bread really is very stale. And I'm going to pop it in there. And then I've got here a little mix. It's got oil, so you could use olive oil, you could use a combination of a vegetable or some good quality vegetable oil or sunflower oil and olive oil. Just avoid coconut oil, but really any other oils are absolutely fine. And within that you want to season the oil. So we've put in there quite a lot of salt, we've got oregano, and you could also do things like dried thyme, you could do dried rosemary, you could put a little bit of paprika in there. I'm going to do some fennel seeds as well to get it a really nice crunchy flavour. And that's going to just add an extra boost. Cracked pepper would be really good in there as well. And then with your pastry brush, you're just going to brush the mixture on top of the crackers, on the top of the bread. Now, it doesn't look like it's a lot of oil, but it really doesn't need that much. If you over oil it, it's going to get a bit soggy again. So we're going to give it a good oil coating on both sides. I think those fennel seeds are going to be really yummy in there. So if I was having people over, I would do these and then serve those with cheese as well. I often do them if I've made a nice dip to have on the side. They'd also be really delicious just with fresh tomatoes chopped up on top. And maybe a little splash of vinegar. Alright, so then I'm going to pop those into the oven. Your oven doesn't need to be too high, probably around about 110 degrees. We're looking really to dry them out. So it's not as low as a dehydrator, but we're in a low-ish kind of oven. And then we're going to slide those in and let them cook. Basically, you want them to get as dry as you possibly can, and that way they're going to store really well as well. So we'll pop those in the oven. Now I've made some earlier, and you can see how light and crunchy they are. They're really, really yummy. It's hard for me not to eat this whole tray. And I think that if you wanted to use a combination of different breads as well, that would be fine. So rye bread makes really great crackers as well. You can try some of the seeded sandwich bread if you want, but really roll that out as thin as you possibly can. Once they're completely dry, they will store pretty well in an airtight container or jar. Probably, I would say, for up to a week. Once you open them, if they do feel like they're a little bit soft, you can refresh them in the oven again to get them nice and crunchy as well. Now the other thing I wanted to show you was how to make the best croutons. These are the croutons that we make at the Cornersmith Cafe. Quite easy to do, really full of flavour and really delicious. Croutons are something that I like to have in the cupboard. If you have a salad that needs a little bit more of a boost, it's a great thing to add to them. Really yummy on top of toast, on top of soup as well, instead of serving toast. And I think it's a good pantry staple to have to just kind of brighten up meals a little bit. Plus you get to use up all those excess bits. So in my fry pan, I'm going to put a couple of tablespoons of olive oil. Again, use the oil that you like to use at home. If you wanted to use sunflower oil, that would be absolutely fine. Rice bran oil would work as well. We're going to let that oil heat up, and once that's gotten nice and hot, we're going to pop the croutons in. I've chopped these about this size, but you could do little tiny baby ones if you wanted, or you could do much larger ones as well. So once your oil gets nice and hot, we're going to put a little bit of garlic in there. Just be mindful that we don't want the garlic to burn, so we're going to do that quite quickly. And then we're going to pop in the croutons on top. So we're basically getting that oil really nice and garlicky. And then the croutons are going to go in. That's smelling amazing. Then on top of that, you add whatever flavors that you like. I would say salt, a generous handful of salt would be really nice. Good big pinch of salt. And then I'm going to do a little bit of paprika and a little bit of cayenne pepper. I think that's going to give it a nice, intense flavour. It might be particularly nice on a tomato salad. So a good pinch of cayenne pepper. And this is some smoky paprika, but again, I want you to use what you have in your pantry. Please don't go out and buy any spices. You could also do chopped up herbs, so some dried oregano would be really nice. Rosemary is very yummy on croutons as well. And then once they smell very fragrant and delicious, I just want you to tip them onto a tray. So you're looking for them to just get coated in the oil there, but it's in the oven that they're going to get really crunchy. So I'm going to pop those, spread those out onto a tray. Oh, they smell amazing. Pop one in your mouth, see how the seasoning is. You can always add a little bit more. And so what's happening in the oven is they're getting extra crunchy and they're drying out completely. It's really important when you're drying foods out that you get all the moisture out. So drying is a technique which preserves food. If you withdraw all the moisture from the ingredient, then it will store for a really long time. Pop those in the oven at about 180 degrees, really until they're very crunchy and dry, but they're not burnt. So sometimes if your bread was moister, it will take a little longer than if it was very dry as well. Then pull them out of the oven. Once they're completely cooled down, then you can store them in an airtight container. And these croutons last for a really long time. So you definitely get a couple of weeks, maybe even longer out of them. And it's a great thing to have in the cupboard and just sprinkle over anything that you need. So those ones will go into the oven. I also just wanted to talk to you about spicing up your breadcrumbs. So breadcrumbs are something that you should never buy. There is no need to buy crummies when there's so much bread around. The trick to these is that you whiz up the bread while it's just, whatever leftover bread that you have, whiz that up in your food processor, spread that over a tray, pop that into the oven and let it dry out. Then once they're completely cooled, you add the spices that you want. So we've added things like lots of oregano in here, salt, some grated Parmesan cheese. You could do pepper, you could do something like garlic or onion powder as well to give it that really umami sort of flavour. So whatever spices that you like, again cayenne or chili flakes would be really nice as well. And then once they're completely dry, they go into the jar with all the spices, you shake it up, and then you can store that either in the pantry, or if you wanted that to last for a long time, sometimes I make a very big batch of them, you just store it in the freezer. I put it in the freezer either directly in the jar, or just in a takeaway container or a Tupperware container, and don't be concerned that it won't form into one big lump of breadcrumbs, else because they're so dry, it will just freeze like that as well. They're excellent to use if you wanted to crumb vegetables, to make chicken schnitzels. Cauliflower schnitzels are delicious as well. You can also just have that on top of pasta as well for a really classic dish. The last thing I wanted to say with both breadcrumbs and the croutons is it is something that you can put through any kind of salad. So Caesar salads are lovely, tomato salads are really lovely with that kind of thing, and don't forget, of course, on top of soup as well. I think it's really important that we all look for ways to reduce our food waste, to avoid packaging, to avoid buying unnecessary things at the supermarket. We all need to become more resourceful and less reliant on the supermarkets. So making sure you know how to use all those little odds and ends that end up hanging around is the first way to have a more sustainable kitchen at home. Hopefully that helps. Give it a try and see how you go. Thanks so much. Bye.